And welcome back to Fresh Outlook. I'm TWB. Well, tax day is right around the corner, and it looks like some celebrities are in deep water, like Dionne Warwick. Let's take a look.
Legendary singer Dionne Warwick shocked fans this week when the 72-year-old icon filed for bankruptcy. The reason? Over $10 million in back taxes. Of course, she's not the only celebrity in trouble with the IRS. Big stars like Mary J. Blige, Lindsay Lohan, and Lauryn Hill are all in a similar boat. Actor Stephen Baldwin was arrested last winter for failing to file. And Hollywood lead Wesley Snipes is still serving a tax-related prison sentence. Why are so many of the rich and famous in trouble with Uncle Sam? Is the government making an example out of them? And what can the average person do to avoid getting into hot water come this tax day?
Well, obviously a lot of great questions. I mean, I don't think the average person at all is remotely connected to people like Dionne Warwick, who have millions of dollars and have people taking business managers. I mean, frankly, I feel in many of these instances, it's the business managers who are to blame, perhaps, because these celebrities are so busy doing their jobs, just take care of the money side, and then this is what happens.
They take it.
What's that?
They take the money.
They just take it, right, exactly. What do we think, panel? Why do celebrities have so many tax woes?
For me, it's a great teachable moment about financial literacy for everyone. And I think that there's a lot of scrutiny on celebrities, but we could look at across the board how this is impacting people across the country who find themselves in significant tax debt. So in a way, I'm grateful for some of these celebrities being in hot water because it raises the issue and allows us to talk about perhaps some type of financial literacy that needs to be incorporated, because this is not just a problem that touches the rich and famous.
Right.
There are a lot of people struggling with this, across the country. I hate that the emphasis is solely on celebrities, because we can look at someone like, for example, a couple years ago, Richard Hatch on Survivor, won $1 million and immediately found himself in hot water. People simply don't have the knowledge about the tax code and how it's applied, and they don't always get the help they need, to your point, TWB.
So how do they get the help they need? I mean, Dee Dee?
Well, I think the celebrities, are being targeted because they have more money, they owe more money, and it's higher profile, so it makes, the rest of us think, wait a minute, if they can go to jail, then everyone else can, so it's a deterrent. But I think this also, we should address the tax code. It's so terrible and so complicated.
So complicated.
It really needs to change, because, obviously these folks, as to your point, talking about they have business managers. Now, a lot of these folks say, I owe taxes. I have no idea. I had no idea what was going on.
Right.
So it's tough, and it's difficult for anyone to understand the tax code. I mean, that's not an excuse, but it is part of this.
Do you think, Jackie, that the government's sort of picking on celebrities to use them as an example? Is that the right thing to do?
No, I think that they're out there and we see them, and that's why they're getting all this publicity. However, I do not think that the IRS accountants are looking at People magazine and saying, oh, who can I audit next? No.
Okay.
Pay your taxes.
Didn't Donald Trump file for bankruptcy a few years ago?
More than once, I think.
More than once.
He was one of those guys. Let's segue a little bit. Do you guys hear about sort of all the biggest corporations in our country are paying fewer and fewer taxes? It's sort of the more money they make, the bigger refunds they get, the less taxes they're paying. I mean, this just seems outrageous to me. And we can go down some of these, just some of these stats. Verizon, let's see, Verizon's second worst tax record with a refund despite $48 billion in profits. Kraft Foods, they received a refund from the public despite $13.5 billion in profits. They're also a leading job cutter. Dow Chemical received a refund despite $10 billion in profits. Is this just backwards? I mean, frankly, as a taxpayer, I think it's outrageous.
It goes against the principle that was established when we introduced a graduated income tax. And the problem is, and I understand this from a monetary standpoint, that you want to stimulate the economy and you want to make sure that Verizon and Kraft have access to capital in order to ensure they can still hire people. At the same time, when you look at some of the middle class or people who consider themselves in the middle class, who find themselves in alternative tax land, who are saddled with penalties. And I think that's what we're seeing in the case of some of these celebrities, where literally the case of Dionne Warwick, she paid off the tax debt. It's the penalties now at this point that are continuing to burden her. I agree with Dee Dee. That's the real crime
the penalties.
Here. Yeah, the penalty and the fact that the tax code is broken and needs to be fixed.
I mean, just go ahead.
Yeah, no, but the tax code here favors the corporations.
Why?
I'll tell you why.
So the economy continues to
I'll tell you
maintain
why.
the status quo?
I'll tell you why. Because the tax rate for a corporation is 35%, which is extremely high. It's about 10% over the normal middle class person. However, you just had a list. Don't forget GE. GE
Oh, yeah.
is the biggest
The
corporation.
worst over 5
It is
years,
the worst
81
one.
billion in
The worst.
profits and
The worst.
81 billion in profits and a $3 billion refund. The worst tax record over 5 years.
Two-thirds of their employees are working overseas. What's going on with this is that they have all this creative accounting.
That's true.
In other words, which has also been called corporate welfare. There's so many loopholes there.
That takes us back to the tax code. That's the problem. They've got
Yeah.
the money for the high-priced attorneys, so they get out of it where other
Right.
folks don't, and it's not fair and it's not right. And then they ship the jobs overseas, and it's really
That's the formula.
What's with these loopholes? I mean, why can't this be fixed once and for all?
The reason it can't be fixed is for a very simple reason. It's almost because we have a mafia system in this country. What is going on is that the tax code is determined by the Congress and the senators, etc. They have the final vote. Well, guess who finances their campaigns? The big corporations.
Bingo.
And I'm talking Congress, I'm talking the Senate, I'm talking the presidential candidates,
Right.
and I'm not just talking left or right, I'm talking all
So it's completely corrupt. We live in a corrupt system.
well, it needs to be
Tax-
fixed. It needs a tax reform.
Do you,
has-
do you see a
time.
fix in anytime in the near future?
at the very
when you look at
least-
the amount of money these two, Romney and Obama put it, the greatest, the biggest numbers ever. I mean, is there change in our future? It doesn't seem that way.
Well, I don't know. I kind of like a flat tax or a fair tax where everybody pays the same. A lot of people are saying, well, that's not right. It's not fair. Well, it's a lot more fair than that when corporations aren't paying anything. And actually, the corporate tax rate is too high. What they need to do, or what government needs to do, is get rid of the loopholes, and so their attorneys, get out of paying anything, which is not right and it's not fair. So we just desperately need tax reform.
Yeah, I am totally with you there. The thing is, we're in this bad formula.
Terrible.
I think
what
what
does
we
Obama say about this? Does he just turn a blind
I believe
deaf
he
ear?
got about $50,000 for his campaign from GE.
Oh yeah, I got
not a lot.
it's a buddy of his,
But
ML.
to me, therein lies the problem, is that
Yeah.
the people who should be policing this, and then you see
Exactly.
They're in on it.
Exactly. And they go back to Wall Street and to the big banks in order to find people like Tim Geithner. Where do a lot of these people who are the sheriff in town come from? They come from the very institutions that need to be regulated. So that's a problem.
What about people who say, we don't want to pay taxes because we don't agree with how the government is using them? Is there a valid point there? I mean, I don't think there is.
No.
No.
No, I mean, that's,
we
can't really get away with
we
that.
have elected officials,
Right.
and they have the say as to how our
Right.
tax dollars are used.
but based on this corrupt system we're all a part of, it just seems to be getting worse and worse.
It is.
What will it take for any sort of tax reform, loophole codes to be changed?
Campaign finance reform.
And who's in charge of that? Who's in charge of it?
Well, it's
And that's the Congress. Congress, the president, Washington, D.C. and
But
all
they're
the
all
state-
in cahoots.
Yeah, so now let's just hope that we elect some really great elected officials and perhaps a new president, because this president really does like his taxes, but almost everyone in...
Dee Dee.
Well, the taxes keep going up and up and up. I mean, that is... No, it's
your
true.
former employer.
Oh,
put
no,
us
him
into
too.
this
No,
mess.
you don't
There
understand.
you go.
We're talking about the president now. I'm saying the next one, hopefully there'll be someone who would appreciate
You
tax
know, I'm
reform or do
thinking
something
maybe it's
different.
not the person. Maybe it's just the system, as we just described.
Yeah, but it's the people who change the system, and it's such a dinosaur, and it's such a problem now. It's so convoluted.
maybe once
Everyone
they get
comes
in
in
it-
attacking a system like Obama in 2007 on the campaign trail. It's very easy to talk about campaign finance reform. It's very easy to talk about reforming the tax code. Then when you get into the numbers and needing corporations in order to finance those campaigns, you find yourself
Then it
in
falls
debt,
apart.
literally, to people and to entities that say, in exchange, we expect that you will not do
Get
these
rid of
things.
these loopholes
It's
so
just
we can
absurd,
continue to operate.
You guys got to see this article. I mean, like ExxonMobil paid less than 1% in U.S. taxes and received oil subsidies and made some of the largest profits last year. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, and there's sort of no end to it. But again, sort of on that point of people who don't agree with where our taxes are going in terms of the defense budget, how much money we spend on our defense budget. So many taxpayers. I'm upset about this. What can I do? Is there anything I can do?
Well,
to try
a
to
lot
stop
of
it
the
in
folks
its
that
tracks?
are, they don't like the high taxes, they're moving. I mean,
Right.
especially folks in France and other countries. We're not that bad yet, but actually we're having that a little bit already with corporations. We're losing jobs, we're losing corporations because of the high taxes. However, others take advantage of the loopholes. So it's really, upside down. They need to get rid of the loopholes, and then you need to make corporate tax rate lower.
Right.
And lower really for everyone.
I'll believe it when pigs fly, though. I don't think it's anywhere we can talk all day about it, but I really don't think it's realistic. As we look forward to, not look forward, but just look ahead to tax day, what can can the average person do to sort of help themselves if they were having problems? I mean, any advice, panel?
Vigilance is the watchword. You look at some of these celebrities, and I think part of the problem is that they, and to their credit, some of these, especially the singers, make their money in a very short period of time. And so really what they're looking at are concerts and other things that they're living off, like a Lauryn Hill, the profits from an album
Lindsay
10 years
Lohan.
ago.
Yeah.
So that's part of the problem. At the same time, for the average American, I think what our takeaway is vigilance, financial literacy, and then making sure that we raise our kids with a very good sense that this is something you have to be on top of. Quite frankly, you don't have the luxury of pretending that this isn't an issue and it's not going to impact you in a way that might ultimately compromise your ability to raise your family.
But what about just like Dionne Warwick, if you've paid off the principal, but now it's the penalties and the taxes that are sort of tripping you up? That happens to average people. What can they do about it? Jackie?
I have a really good accountant.
Okay.
And that's how I handle it.
Okay.
But once you're into those penalties, I think you have no hope.
No hope?
Oh no, that's
That's it?
not at all.
But what
That's
about the people who
sad.
can't
Oh,
afford a
gosh.
great accountant? I mean,
Well, and you see these
It's a sad
advertisements
situation.
for lawyers who say they can settle your tax debt on pennies on the dollar, and a lot of those are scams. So this system itself is ripe with abuse, and it has to be addressed by lawmakers who have the wherewithal to say, we're not going to be baited by loopholes and corporations that are able to make the pledge of money and then say, but in exchange you don't regulate us.
And be so beholden to the donors, the people who have raised money for you. I mean, it really is out of control. And that's where you just look at who is your congressman and what are you going to do about it? Do you want him in or do you want him out? I mean, it comes down to grassroots, and if you've got really good people, you've got bad people. Heck, we've got members of Congress who made so much money on insider trading.
Right.
That's even worse. You've got all kinds of terrible things going on in Washington, D.C., so we really need to be vigilant about government, our taxes,
all right, guys,
money,
we're out of
everything.
time. Sorry to cut you off. I know. I'm just the messenger. Thanks, you guys. As always, it's been fresh. Appreciate your time. And remember, thank you, of course, to our all-star panel. If you have a fresh outlook, please let us know on our Facebook, our Twitter page. That's #FreshOutlook or @AbruTV. In the Twitterverse, I'm @TW Brill. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you right here next time on Fresh Outlook.